G'day there guys. In your opinion, how much hair is too much hair? It's your host Markee. Welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a like on the video, chuck a prawn on the Barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user SleepyStudent2020. Titled, Am I the a-hole for wearing earplugs and headphones to sleep and study since my parents had a baby? So I am a 21-year-old college student living at home again because my college campus is shut down. I have a 17-year-old brother, a 15-year-old sister, and a 13-year-old brother. So, yeah, I was already sick of babies and babysitting and all that comes with that. Then this year my parents got pregnant and had a baby girl. She's 3 months old now, and I'd been going a little crazy in the house already because it's noisy being around all my younger siblings. Now with a crying baby too, sleep and school have been difficult. I started wearing foam earplugs to bed, the kind construction workers wear to protect their hearing. Then I bought a pair of those noise-cancelling headphones for myself and started wearing them over the top of the foam earplugs to bed, with a couple pillows piled over my ears. And I've been sleeping a lot better. I've also started wearing the earplug and headphones combination when I'm in class or studying. I can hear the teachers through the headphones despite the earplugs, and I'm not distracted at all. I've also been wearing them when I'm doing things like reading books or video calling my friends. And my parents and siblings have started to get upset with me, saying that I've been completely closed off from the family. I can't hear anything like my parents calling my name. They don't like how I can't hear the baby to help out sometimes. My parents like all the siblings to help each other out and help with the baby when we can, and say it's dangerous for me to be blocking out her crying, because what if I'm the only one who could have caught something bad happening, if only I was aware of my surroundings? They've also been upset with me because I've locked my door when I sleep or study, and a few times they wanted something from me and couldn't get my attention. Like one time, some of their family friends came over, and they wanted all the family to come have brunch with the family, which I didn't really feel comfortable with visits anyway, but they were embarrassed that they couldn't wake me. Am I the a-hole for wearing earplugs and noise-cancelling headphones after my parents had a surprise baby when I am in college, but studying from home? I guess I'll take it from a bit of a pessimistic point of view here. None of what they're trying to get you to do while you're wearing these earplugs particularly benefits you, so I don't see why you should have to, compromise your current situation, which is better for your health, to accommodate them. Situations like the baby I can understand, although there are 3 other siblings that are perfectly capable of helping out, and there are 2 parents, and with the state of the world, there's 5 people in that house besides OP that can help with the baby. And again, depending on the state of the world, I don't think it's conductive to be having people over for brunch, much less waking OP up and potentially exposing them to what would happen there. If OP doesn't want to wake up and doesn't want to do a brunch with your family friends, they are 21, they have their own priorities, they don't have to do so. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole OP. Not the a-hole? Sleep and school are absolutely the priority for you. College is so damn expensive, you can't afford to do poorly because you are sleep deprived. Unless you have been specifically asked and agreed to watching your baby sister for set periods of time, she is not your responsibility. If they didn't want to take care of an infant, there were plenty of ways to prevent that. I agree. They chose to have another child. She is their responsibility, not OP or their siblings. They should be the only ones taking care of her. It's one thing to help in a pinch, but not all the time. Unless something happens to the parents, why would OP need to be able to hear their sister? What did they do when they were little? They had to take care of their kids by themselves. I agree, but I think OP should periodically check in with their family every couple of hours or so if they're using the headphones and earplugs all the time. Disregarding sleep, of course. No one knows when something bad happens. They can text OP if it's urgent. They wouldn't be able to reach OP if OP was at school. OP is unavailable during school and study time. Their education is very important. Not the a-hole. Your parents had this baby, not you. If they want someone else to accept responsibility for their child, they need to negotiate the time frame. Not the a-hole. If they choose to have children, they have to be fully responsible for them. They have no right to infringe on your studying or your sleep for free babysitting. Though I can't help but worry what would happen if your house caught fire. Posted by user Throwaway Body Pillow. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to get rid of the anime body pillow that saved my marriage? Throwaway account for obvious reasons. So, my husband and I are best friends during the day. Love of my life. It's at night that's an issue. I'm a blanket stealer. I once yanked them so hard, poor hubby flipped a full 180. Hubby, for his part, is a thrasher. Bruce Lee would be jealous of the moves he pulls off while unconscious. It's a constant war between us when we fall asleep, and both of us often wake up sore and exhausted. It was starting to affect our relationship. Neither of us wanted to move to a separate bed because we like spending our nights together, but it seemed like an inevitability. We were both crabby every morning, and we started fighting as soon as we got up. It sucked, but neither of us wanted to concede defeat and move to the other bed. Quick background. I was a huge nerd as a teenager. Full-on otaku. Go ahead, cringe, I do too. One night, as a joke, I brought down an old anime body pillow from the attic. I know, the cringe. And plopped it down between my husband and I, declaring it our demilitarized zone. Hubby also thought that it was hilarious, and we named her DMZ-chan. She stayed there the whole night. It was a game changer. DMZ-chan protected me from hubby's REM-induced rampages, and she's just heavy enough that I can't yank the blankets at full speed. DMZ-chan is now a beloved part of our nightly routine. We both thought it was the funniest thing, but she legitimately helped us solve the only real issue in our marriage. One day, mother-in-law stopped by to pick something up. She got up to use the restroom, passing by our open bedroom door. You can guess what she saw. DMZ-chan propped up in the middle of our bed, her giant, soulful anime eyes looking right back at mother-in-law. When she got back, she quickly grabbed her stuff and left. Hubby and I both confused. She later mentioned DMZ-chan to hubby while they were on the phone, and it absolutely mortified him. As far as I know, mother-in-law now thinks we are deviants in a three-way relationship with a body pillow. Hubby was too embarrassed to explain, and now he wants to put DMZ-chan back in the attic. I was upset. I told him I didn't want to go back to boxing each other at night, and that DMZ-chan helped us so much in that. He agreed, but suggested we get a normal plain body pillow case to replace her. I felt like there was no need to spend money on something we already have, and if it really was that big of an issue, we can put her in the closet while we have company over. Hubby is firm in that she has to go permanently. I know he's embarrassed, but I feel like we shouldn't have to compromise our inside jokes to appease other people. Am I the a-hole? I don't think you're the a-hole for this one. I mean, I don't think anyone is in this situation. I feel like her mind jumped into a gutter quick fast, and that's not really anyone's fault. The only questionable decision here was the mother-in-law's to quickly get up without an explanation and leave, and then shame you for that. She doesn't particularly have control over what she sees, but she does have control over her reactions, and I think that was inappropriate by her. Personally, another solution to this problem would be to just get two separate beds. It seems like you want your cake and to eat it too. DMZ-chan is a good way to go about it, but I particularly think that two beds might be the solution in this one. But it's your marriage. You guys do whatever makes you happy and healthy. Gonna go with either not the a-hole or no a-holes here. I'm torn. Edit. Sweet bees, this blew up. Was not expecting all the attention. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for chiming in. I admit I was being stubborn. I drove over to Target on my lunch break and bought a new cover for $10. I put it on DMZ-chan as soon as I got home. To those asking, I did wash her after fishing her out of the attic, and am now waiting on hubby to get home so I can apologize for making him uncomfortable. DMZ-chan shall live on in our hearts, and under the blankets when company's over. Not the a-hole. The real problem isn't about removing the pillow, but the fact that your mother-in-law made a scene about something that isn't any of her business. Your husband should stop enabling that. Everyone sucks here. Mother-in-law sucks for making such a big deal about it, husband for not explaining a simple and straightforward situation to his mum and instead having this knee-jerk reaction. You for not taking the reasonable compromise of a plain pillowcase for it. Yup, this exactly. His compromise was reasonable. Pillowcases are not expensive unless they go for the expensive ones. Okay, but it's not about appeasing other people anymore, is it? Your husband is now uncomfortable with the pillow, and you wouldn't be uncomfortable with the plain pillow he is suggesting, so it seems pretty obvious what the choice here should be. You're the a-hole, unpopular, I know. Yeah, fair. It just feels like now he's ashamed of something we both enjoyed, like he's embarrassed about a part of my history. It's not like I'm still super into anime, but seeing how put off he is about his mum knowing about that part of me makes me feel bad. But you're right, if push comes to shove, I'll get the plain pillowcase. Maybe you should discuss this with him. Tell him how it makes you feel while making it clear that if he is actually uncomfortable with the pillow, that's valid too. It really seems to me that he's uncomfortable with the pillow now that he knows what it signifies, not uncomfortable with your past interest in anime for what it's worth. I definitely see where both sides are coming from. Getting a normal pillowcase is an easy compromise for sure, and depending on the person, a conversation like that with their parents could be pretty traumatic. But I also see where OP is coming from, I think. They mention multiple times that they know it's nerdy or cringe or whatever. They seem sort of ashamed of it, but I think maybe being able to joke about their past and even bring a little of it into their present may have given them a deeper sense of comfort with their partner, and that is what is being compromised here. I don't really think it's about the pillow so much as it is about her opening that part of her up to him initially liking it and having fun with it, and then changing his mind entirely when an outside entity said, I think it's kinda weird. An otaku has usually spent a fair chunk of their time having people treat them different or call them weird because of their interests, and it's probably a little jarring to have it happen at home as an adult now too. This is all conjecture, of course, but I do think that the issue for OP is more that someone outside of their relationship was able to influence one of them to stop enjoying something they once enjoyed for basically no reason. Posted by user No Turkey A-hole, or Not Your Key A-hole, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter-in-law to toughen up? So my wife and I are in our 60s and nearing retirement. We have 3 sons in their 20s and 30s. The older 2 are married, and the oldest has a 1-year-old son. We all live within an hour of each other, but due to the pandemic, we have not gotten together much the last 6 months. We even had to do a Zoom call for my grandson's first birthday since his parents didn't want a group gathering. With Thanksgiving coming up, we have all been staying home and taking every precaution so that we can all get together for the holiday. My oldest son and his wife will be hosting. The other day in the family group chat, my 2 daughter-in-laws and my wife were venting about the pandemic and how hard and exhausting it all has been trying to juggle working from home, childcare, family, etc. I made a light-hearted joke about them toughening up and told them all to grow a pair. My oldest son's wife sent a long message about how that kind of language is damaging, and that if I ever said anything like that to her son, that it would be the last thing I said to him. She also sent a link to an article about toxic masculinity. I read the article, and then sent my daughter-in-law a private message telling her that I read it, but that I don't agree with it, and she should stop whining. She didn't respond. So the next morning I sent her another message telling her we should strive to have a complaint-free day. She didn't respond to that either. Well, Last night, my oldest son called to tell us that they will no longer be hosting Thanksgiving. He said that their daycare had a pandemic scare and they have to get their son tested. He said that they no longer want to host and will be staying home as a family instead. My wife is very upset by this as she loves family holidays, and not having all her sons around this year has been very hard on her. I called my son to tell him this and to try to change his mind. I told him that as long as their son tests negative, that there is no reason we can't all still get together. I told him that we have all been staying home and taking precautions, and I didn't want that to be for nothing, and that his mother is distraught over this. He told me this wasn't a debate or a negotiation. He and his wife have made their decision. He then said he loved me, but that I'm an a-hole and should stop whining and complaining. Then he hung up. My wife is still very upset that we won't see everyone for the holiday, but now she's also ticked off at me because apparently my son and daughter-in-law told her what I said to daughter-in-law, and my wife agrees with them that I was a jerk. Yeah, I kind of agree with them that you were a jerk too. You've just completely signposted that, hey, look at me, I'm a raging a-hole. I'm actually the reason that she's doing this, but I'm gonna play along with their game, saying, oh my god, can't believe you do it, just get a negative test and just host it anyway. Look at how you're upsetting everyone else. Look, everyone's so upset at you guys. You're upsetting your mother, just host the party, what's wrong with you? I don't know, Chief. Seems like some gaslighting from your parts. You don't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to negotiating family relationships, and for that I bestow you the honor of you're the a-hole. I made a light-hearted joke about them toughening up and told them all to grow a pair. She should stop whining. Yep, you sound like you're the a-hole. She's going through a tough time and you dismissed it. You used dismissive and obnoxious language. She told you it bothered her, and you double and tripled down on it instead of trying to be polite. He then said that he loved me, but that I'm an a-hole and should stop whining and complaining, then he hung up. And your son rocks. Toughen up and stop complaining. You're the a-hole. He should also grow a pair, just like he told his daughter-in-laws and wife. Maybe even stop whining and aim for a complaint-free day. Aim for a complaint-free day is the most condescending, obnoxious thing I can imagine anyone saying in reply to someone expressing a valid concern. I hope OP's son and daughter-in-law are on the Just No Mother-in-Law subreddit getting good advice for setting boundaries with a-hole in-laws. You're the a-hole. Telling them to toughen up and grow a pair was a jerk comment. Whining about having a holiday that they're not comfortable with is self-absorbed and whiny. Maybe you should take your own advice and toughen up. Posted by user Lied About Fertility TA. Titled, Am I the a-hole for lying about my wife having fertility issues? So my wife is trans, and we met for the first time after she fully medically and surgically transitioned. Nobody besides her family, and my sister, who found out on her own, really knows this, and she wants to keep it that way. Anyway, we both wanted to have kids young, so we adopted our little girl before the pandemic started. Because of everything that's been going on, my parents didn't really get to meet her until last week, and my sister and her husband were also there. My parents are very conservative, and they've been a bit disappointed about the fact that we adopted. Nothing really explicit, but just subtle things. After they met our daughter, though, they melted a little, because how could you not? But they still wanted to know why we adopted. I felt a bit clever saying fertility issues, because we do have fertility issues, just not the kind that my parents probably thought. My sister didn't say anything at the time, but she let loose on me later. I forgot that she has fertility issues, and she started yelling at me, saying that she has been spending tens of thousands of dollars on in vitro, how depressed it's made her, how her marriage is on the rocks, and how she's traumatized from her miscarriages. I didn't know she had any. She told me that she trusted me with that, and that I'm immature. I told her that we technically do have fertility issues, and she said it's different because we chose to have ours, and we knew what we were getting into. She said that it wasn't our issue to appropriate. All the women I dated before my wife were cis, but I didn't fall in love with any of them. I don't think I chose to fall in love with her, so that made me pretty upset. I wouldn't have felt like I was in the wrong until my sister told me that I could have just said that I felt like it would be better for the world to adopt. I still think it would have been met with a lot of suspicion and criticism from my parents, but that would have been the easiest way to avoid anybody getting hurt, and now I've built this unnecessary rift between my sister and I. My wife says that we do have fertility issues, and she feels bad for my sister because of everything she's going through, but ultimately, we have nothing to apologize for because we told the truth. I don't know what to think about all this. Am I the a-hole? It seems innocent enough in this regard that you genuinely didn't know that the sister was so touchy about it, you didn't know that she had miscarriages, and you didn't know what's going on in her life. I do think saying fertility issues was the easiest way to skirt around your conservative parents, and they accepted that. Probably more so because your sister is having a long, drawn-out battle with fertility issues, and I can see where that would clash with her getting so upset at you. And as the saying goes, you can always attribute, ignorance where malice may be, and I don't think that there was any malice in OP's actions. This is a learning experience. You've touched a nerve with the sister, you back out, you apologize because that is a lot to be going through, and I don't think you knew that she was struggling so much in her life. I'm gonna go with no a-holes here for this one. I don't particularly think I can blame the sister. She's going through a lot in her life, and that's a lot to deal with. Not the a-hole. Wouldn't I felt like it would be better for the world to adopt? Also be judging your sister who went through IVF and miscarriages in the hopes of having a biological child. You couldn't win here. That said, if you love your sister, find a way to reconcile. She has been through a lot, and she lashed out in a way that was emotional and not rational. Don't waste precious time waiting for her to make the first move, even if she should. Thank you for responding. I love my sister very much. I was the annoying little brother growing up, if you can tell. Right now, she says she doesn't want to speak to me, but I'm definitely going to be checking up on her a bit better from now on. So many people have been talking about how in vitro affects your hormones, and I definitely understand how she's traumatized from her miscarriages. So I'm really not upset with her, and I just hope we can repair things as soon as possible. I'm a little bit afraid of her saying anything about my wife to our parents though. She was judgmental when she found out about her being trans at first, but she grew into accepting it, and I just hope she doesn't take any steps backwards as far as that goes. I would find it hard to forgive anyone who targets my wife like that. Double not the a-hole for this comment. You were being super understanding, while still having an extremely valid line in the sand. Respecting your wife's privacy. Not the a-hole. She said it's different because we chose to have ours, and we knew what we were getting into. That's complete bullcrap. Your wife didn't choose to be trans, and you didn't choose who you fell in love with. Sorry your sister is struggling, but she's the a-hole for thinking that you are appropriating fertility issues. Jesus effing Christ. Just because your fertility issues aren't exactly the same as hers, that doesn't make yours invalid. And who says OP's wife isn't devastated that she can't bear a child herself? Just because she knew it was impossible from the start, doesn't make it any less disappointing. It's been devastating for my wife too. Not only is it a major source of dysphoria for her, but it was difficult for her to come to terms at first that she could never have biological kids. Our daughter is the most important girl in the world, and we'd never trade her for any biological kid. But it's still something that very much affects my wife. Thank you for responding. No a-holes here. Sterility and being unable to have biological children, period, and undergoing IVF and suffering repeated miscarriages are two different types of infertility. They are both real, they are both losses, they both need to be processed and grieved, and they are both painful. I can see why your sister doesn't see them as the same experience, because they are not. It would probably have been better if you had just said that your wife can't have children and declined to talk about details. But you don't owe people exact information about personal issues, so I understand why you didn't. I hope you can reach an understanding with your sister. That doesn't mean one is more real or valid than the other, it just means that they are very different. Posted by user Mooching CoWorker. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to buy a co-worker lunch? I, 23 male, have a co-worker, 25 male, who is a mooch. If you get something for lunch, he wants you to get him something too, but expects you to buy it for him because since you mentioned it, he says you offered. At first I thought maybe he had money problems, but then overheard him laughing and bragging to someone in another department about how he was able to scam lunches out of his co-workers, and he's attempted to bully a free meal out of someone more than once. His general entitled attitude is one of the many reasons I don't like him. So yesterday, my girlfriend and I had lunch together. He overheard me confirming before I left, and asked what I was bringing him, and I said nothing. He said I brought it up, and I corrected him. No, I was confirming we were still good, and he was eavesdropping on my conversation. He started complaining, so I said that if he gave me money for his food, I would bring him something, but I wasn't going to buy him food. He started complaining about it again, and I got irritated and said no money, no food, and then I left. When I got back, my boss said my coworker complained that I was being hostile. I told him what happened and how he's constantly trying to weasel free food out of people, even some of the people he knows that are struggling. So my boss asked around and several others corroborated what I said. My coworker got dragged into the office and now he's pissed that I narked and how he was just kidding. Most of the office thinks he got what he deserved, but a few think it wasn't worth getting him in trouble over. Today, no one he asked told him what they were doing for lunch, and he's whining that we are alienating him. I said he alienated himself because of his behavior. He said I'm an a-hole, but I don't really feel bad that a mooch who thinks it's funny to scam his co-workers thinks I'm an a-hole. My little brother is on here a lot and suggested I post though. So, am I the a-hole? Coming in hot, I don't think so. I think this is entitlement gone awry. And, he's done this to himself in this situation. I can see how he's convinced himself that you guys are alienating him and that his behavior wasn't that bad, but the fact that he gave himself up, saying like, oh man, I scammed these people for free food. God, isn't this great? He's already blown his cover previous to this and put past any shadow of a doubt what his intentions were. I feel like if he hadn't said any of that before, we could have given him the benefit of the doubt, but in this case, no. It's absolutely clear what's going on, and I don't feel like OP has left anything out or omitted any details. So I'm on OP's side for this one, not the a-hole. Definitely not the a-hole. He got what was long overdue. It's not like you went out of your way to narc on him. He is the one who narked on himself by whining to your boss about you. Had he not brought up the issue and forced you to defend your actions, what did he think was going to happen? That you were just going to roll over and let your boss bollock you for no reason? None of this would have happened. Good on you for standing up for yourself and your co-workers, and hopefully giving him a life lesson. Plus, if I read this correctly, he asks the co-worker what they're getting for lunch, and then tries to get them to buy him something by claiming that they brought it up? How in the world does asking someone what they're having for lunch mean that they brought up the topic? And why is, you brought up what you're going to eat during lunch, the same as you invited me to lunch? Regardless of who brought it up, what kind of insane statement even is that? Does that mean I'm invited to fly to some remote Caribbean island every time someone mentions their vacation plans? Jesus Christ! I'm angry with everyone who indulged that a-hole. Dude wasn't even a good scammer and still got everyone in the office to buy him food. Ah! Not the a-hole? You didn't narc, he did. So if I understand correctly, some of your office thinks that it's fine for him to try to get you into trouble, but not fine for you to defend yourself with the truth. Guess you know who to avoid going forward. I know so many doormats who are so conflict averse, they get upset when others stand up for themselves. I'm a conflict magnet, and I get upset when people don't stand up for themselves at the smallest slight. Not the a-hole. People that are just kidding don't complain about hostility to the boss. He's just pissed that his con stopped working, so no, I wouldn't worry what he thinks. It's absolutely worth getting him in trouble over when he's trying to get you in trouble. Protecting yourself from the scammer isn't an a-hole thing to do at all. Posted by user Persthilp, titled, "Am I the a-hole for calling my wife lazy and a terrible mother?" This is my first time posting, so excuse me for any mistakes I make. I'm a 57-year-old male, and my wife is 51-year-old female. We've been married for 28 years and have one son together that is 25. She's a stay-at-home wife. She never worked a day after we got married since I inherited a company that had been in my family for many generations. So money was never a problem, and we lived more than comfortably. When our son was little, she took care of him and the house. Now that he's an adult, the chores are the only thing that she does. She used to take on writing, but gave up because she said that it's not as easy as she thought. Now, I don't consider myself sexist or that women belong in the house with kids. This was her choice because she never liked to work. The problem is, I work long hours and expect to have at least a dinner after the long day. We have a housekeeper that comes over twice a week, so her responsibilities are basically cooking and smaller chores. She's stopped cooking and doing things lately because she doesn't feel like doing it. She spends her days hanging with her friends and shopping. Also, our son was born as a female, and my wife always wanted a daughter. When he came out as trans, she threw a fit and was unsupportive. I paid for his surgery and he transitioned. She was never as caring towards him as before and uses wrong pronouns and his old name all the time. The other day I came home and she didn't do anything the whole day and I snapped. I told her that I'm sick of her not doing anything while I'm providing for our family. My son is also still in college, and I pay for all of his expenses and apartment because I want him to focus on school. The argument went on, and she decided to throw in my face how it's my fault she lost her daughter. This really shocked me, and I told her that she is lazy and also a terrible mother for talking as if her child is dead when we have a perfect and healthy son. I am lost. Half of my family members are siding with her and half with me, including our son. She called me an a-hole and went to stay with her sister. Was I the a-hole? I'm seriously considering divorce. Edit. Thank you everyone for commenting. I just wanted to clear up that my son has been out since he was 14 and had his surgery 5 years ago. Another edit. A few of you questioned my son siding with his mum. I don't know how you got that, but my son is definitely on my side, even though he doesn't know the full story. Yeah, I think this is just showing a dark side of your wife that perhaps she was never planning to show to you because circumstances like this wouldn't have come out. And she's not compromising, she's not changing these attitudes. She's basically shaming and disowning her own child, and that's absolutely disgraceful. Honestly, I would divorce her in this situation. This is an absolute deal breaker for a relationship, and I would never see a future with someone like this myself. Gonna go with not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I can't believe your marriage has lasted this long based on what you've said. She didn't used to be like this, but ever since our son officially transitioned via surgery, she changed. I'm trans as well. My mother sounds a lot like your wife. She denies it, uses the wrong name and pronouns. She threatened me when I first told her at 14 that if I ever came out to everyone else, they would all hate me and leave me. When I finally did come out, she grieved her daughter because now everyone else knows and she can't hide me anymore. I tried getting her to come to therapy. I was willing to work with her through her issues and pain, but she denied it. She just wanted to be angry. Through my dad, I learned that she blames herself for this, that it's her fault there's something wrong with me. Get your wife into counseling. Yes, she's being selfish and transphobic, but there might be a chance if you can get her to a therapist who can explain what transitioning means to us. This may be hard on her, in ways we simply can't understand. I told my mother that if she ever wanted to reconcile and go to therapy with me, I'd be happy to renew our relationship. Hopefully your wife takes the offer and gets help for her issues. This seems to go beyond transphobia. Not the a-hole, by the way. I think you both should go get some kind of therapy, whether that be family, marriage, and/or individual. But if I were you, my line in the sand as a family unit would be that she has to start respecting your son and treat him better, because what she's doing is causing a disturbance in the peace of the family unit. However she goes about reconfiguring her emotions about the issue, she has to go through that process. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And for her not doing anything for the household, my line in the sand for that would be 1. She gets a paying job, 2. She volunteers full-time for a charity, and 3. You both share in the household chores. But she cannot spend all day socializing and shopping, especially if she's the cause of tension in the house and in the family unit. Not the a-hole for wanting a better home life overall, but you should practice better and regular communication so that you don't blow up all at once when you finally snap. The only thing I would disagree with is you saying it's the son's choice. Nobody chooses to be trans. People can choose to explore different gender identities to find what fits best, but you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna go be a boy now. It's a lot more gradual, and it's also terrifying to decide to socially transition, let alone physically. Hope I don't come across as mean or condescending, just want to point this out. You're on the nose about everything else though. OP's wife seriously needs to buckle up and do something, and probably get help if she's refused it all these years. My heart goes out to their son. I'm lucky that my parents were confused but accepting when I came out, and are glad to learn more about my identity, and I'm so glad OP is open and accepting. Posted by user CrockerBocker. Titled, Am I the a-hole for moving out because my girlfriend moved her mum in? A few months ago, I was near the end of my lease, and instead of renewing it, my girlfriend asked me to move in with her. Our relationship was at that level, and she needed help with rent since her hours were cut and she had been dipping into her savings to get around, so it just made sense. I ended up paying 60% of all shared costs. We were going to go 50-50, but since her hours were cut and I already made more than her before that happened, I figured I would allow her to replenish her savings. It was pretty great for a few months, until she, out of the blue, told me her mum was going to come live with us as she had lost her job and house. I told her I was not comfortable with that, and asked her if there were any alternatives. She said that she could live with her grandma, her mum's mum, but that her mum felt that it was humiliating, so that was a no-go. I still told her I was not okay with this. Apparently living with your adult daughter and her boyfriend is less humiliating? Now, it is worth noting that her mum is, well, weird. She is very obsessive, entitled, high maintenance, puts her nose where it doesn't belong, and is a very dominant do-it-my-way type of person. She once had a meltdown because my girlfriend baked a cake for her nephew's birthday, and so did her mum. She did not know about this, but my girlfriend's cake was better, and cue meltdown. I got dozens of stories like this. My protests were ignored, and 4 weeks ago her mum moved into the guest room. Day 1 was already a crap show. I was going on a grocery run and noticed my grocery list had a ton of extra crap on it. When I asked, her mum said she added it. So I asked her for money, and she said she had none, and my girlfriend acted like I was a dick for asking. It turned into an argument with my girlfriend, where she said it's her name on the lease, so her choice who lives there. Long story short, I noticed in the store all of the stuff she added was brand stuff and costs way more. And when I got at the cash register, I had to pay $220, where I usually spend like $90 at most for the two of us. I put it on my girlfriend's card because F that, I ain't paying for that. When I got home, I called a buddy. asked him if I could crash at his place for a few weeks at most while I looked for a new apartment. He asked his girlfriend, and they called me back later, giving me the okay, and I moved out the next day. I am moving into a new place in a week. Obviously, we were barely on speaking terms when I left. Now that we started talking again, she has been adamant that I am in the wrong, and the only reason I did what I did was because it was her mum and not someone else. Had it been her dad, I would have been fine with it, and I can't deny that, lol, her dad is great. Am I the a-hole here? To be fair, if it was someone I didn't like, regardless of whether it was my partner's parents or not, and they strong-armed themselves into living with me when I said no, but my partner is forcing me to have that person around, I wouldn't be comfortable with it. And then I add on top of that $130 to the weekly shopping list because you can't settle for some, non-brand name products? It's just inconvenience stacked on inconvenience stacked on content. And I don't want a household where I am harboring a lot of content for the people in it because they forced me to do things that I didn't want to do. I can't blame OP for their actions. Gonna go with not the a-hole. Toxic Flutter says, not the a-hole. Look, this is not okay. You should feel comfortable in your own home. If you pay bills there, you get a voice. Your girlfriend has diminished your voice and claimed ownership and all rights to the decision. Your best chance here is to tell her that since it's her on the lease, she can figure it out then and move out. It's not cruel to do this since this is not what was agreed to. You have every reason to not want to live with her mother. That was my thinking too. Like, sure, it's your name on the lease, but I'm footing most of the bills. And to be clear, I already moved out. I'm at a buddy's now and moving into my own place in a week. Good. Stick to your guns here. I know it's hard considering you were directly involved, but to be fair, she sprang this on you and then tried to force you to accept it, and that isn't fair to you at all. Be sure to treat your buddies well. Buy him food and clean up after yourself, and maybe put something into the month's rent. Sounds like you've got good buddies, so try your best to keep them. Bro, I already got a whole thank you dinner planned for my buddy and his girl. Bought a bunch of bottles of wine and everything as gifts. Trust me, I ain't about to let them off without a proper thank you for saving my ass. Not the a-hole. She made you believe that you were sharing an apartment until it came to a decision that you couldn't agree on. Then it's her apartment. So you did the right thing because now you can do what you want in your apartment. That was my thinking too. I'm curious, did you bring that up when talking to your girlfriend? If so, what was her response? I did, and especially drove it home when she moved her in. Well, it's her lease, so she's got to pay for it now without your help. Posted by user Beethoven the 47th. Titled, Am I the a-hole for threatening to kick my brother out for trying to undo my service dog's training and telling me I don't need one? So my brother Jack, 25, recently lost his job. Our parents do not have any space for him at their own home, so he decided to move in with me. 23 male, by the way. I have a service dog, Ripley. He is a 6-year-old Saint Bernard and an absolute gentle giant. I suffer from some pretty severe agoraphobia and anxiety, prone to panic attacks when I leave the house. Ripley is a godsend and has been helping me get my life back together. Jack doesn't really like that I have a service dog though. He doesn't believe that mental health issues are a big deal, that I just need to get over it. Which, let's be real, is a lot easier said than done. We've never been particularly close, and he has often accused me of being an attention seeker. Due to the fact that Ripley is a service dog, it's very important that I keep on top of his training, and I have a strict routine that both Ripley and I follow. However, around 3 or 4 weeks ago, I woke up to Ripley growling. Upon further inspection, I saw Jack holding a lead and trying to pull Ripley out of my bedroom. I intervened and Ripley ran to my side. Jack told me he just wanted to save me the trouble of walking Ripley and had taken it upon himself to do it instead. I explained to him that this is not appropriate, and that I am the one who walks Ripley. He seemed to accept this at first. But over the past couple of weeks, he's been going out of his way to go against my wishes. He tries to feed Ripley at different times, tries to give him food off his plate. We'll try to pet him when we're out in public, when Ripley has to be focused, etc. Literally anything to undo his training, which he admitted kinda smugly one night when we'd had a drink. Eventually, I snapped at him and told him to give it a rest. He fired back that Ripley must be absolutely miserable, as he has no time to be a normal dog. This is, of course, completely untrue. He then called me an attention seeker and said I'm not physically disabled, so I do not need a service dog, and that the only reason I had Ripley was to get attention from strangers. I threatened to kick him out, and Jack went silent and left the room. Later, I got several angry texts from family members for threatening to leave my own brother homeless. I do regret it, as I think I went a bit too far. Jack is absolutely terrified of having nowhere to go, and the threat might have been a bit cruel. But at the same time, Ripley isn't just a dog. He helps me. He calms me down from panic attacks, helps and gives me reason to leave the house, and just generally makes life easier. Undoing his training would completely destroy that. Am I the a-hole? Edit. First, thank you for all the support, you guys. The kind comments really mean a lot, and I've been trying to read each and every one of them. I've seen a couple of questions in the comments, so I figured I'd just answer them here. Ripley is a service dog, not an emotional support animal. He helps ground me during panic attacks, helps me remember to take my medication, and brings my medication to me. I can't say the other things he does because of the rules, but when I'm in a dark place and try to do something I probably shouldn't, he is trained to interrupt me and prevent me from doing it. My family knows exactly what Jack is like. They all conveniently had no space at their houses to take him in, as they don't want to have to deal with him. They also do know how bad my anxiety is, and agree that Ripley is the best thing for helping me deal with it. If they think any differently, then they haven't let on. And thank you to the people who mentioned that having Jack here is making Ripley uncomfortable. I feel like a horrible person for letting him stay so long and making Ripley deal with that. He's a good boy and shouldn't have to be uncomfortable in his own home. I have texted several of my family members, including my parents, with my side of the story. Turns out Jack has twisted it a little bit. I told them that they're welcome to take him in, but I cannot keep him in my home anymore, as he is putting myself and Ripley at risk. Some family members are on my side now, but there are still a fair few who think I'm an a-hole. And guess what? My parents are somehow managing to clear out their storage room to make space for Jack. Isn't that weird? Anyway, thank you again, kind people of Reddit. I think it's a easy, open shut, not the a-hole situation here. Jack is just taking advantage of you through and through, and that's absolutely deplorable and disgusting behavior. I think you need to kick him out for the sake of your well-being and of the dog's, because who knows what the hell is going to happen next. What's he going to do to the dog, and what is that going to mean for you? Just not a good person to hang around, not a good person in general, and just remove him ASAP. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Kicking your brother out is a proportionate response if he continues to interfere in your treatment and accessibility. It's a proportionate response if he interferes with the care and training of your animal. Your family members who are so outraged about your response? That's good news. Your brother can depend on them if he finds his current living situation untenable. Service dogs are considered medical equipment. Messing with them is wrong, and probably illegal to an extent. What if he tampered with insulin, or an EpiPen, or any sort of medication? There is no excuse for his behavior. None. Your family is 100% in the wrong for supporting his endeavor to tamper with medical equipment. Yes, it is a dog. I am sure you take care of him properly, and I am sure that he is well loved. Dogs can handle strict orders. Tons of dogs are working dogs. Police dogs, for example, are actively put into dangerous situations, but they aren't considered abused animals. Not the a-hole. Kick your a-hole brother out anyway. He's admitted he's sabotaging your medical equipment and doesn't think any of your problems are real. Cut him off and cut him out. The only thing stopping me from doing so is that he doesn't have anywhere else to go. But thank you. And he is using this to try and sabotage your service dog. I don't see the issue. Why do you care if he doesn't have somewhere to go if this is how he treats you? You have a service dog for a reason, and he is actively trying to sabotage your life. Why do you have to care about him when he is actively trying to harm you? Because he's his brother, and you can't just turn off your emotions like that? I agree with you. OP's brother should go. But suggesting OP should suddenly stop caring about his brother isn't exactly plausible unless they're a sociopath or something. If the rest of the family is so worried about the brother not having a place to go, surely one of them would offer him a couch at their place or something. Not the a-hole. True. Also, OP has serious anxiety issues, so taking a step like this, involving major confrontation with a family member, is going to be even harder than it would be for the average person, and the average person would find it hard. I'm glad OP has taken a stand. So my son has a medical condition. We are struggling so much trying to do everything we can to help him deal and cope with his condition. It's been difficult enough without my mother-in-law getting involved in making decisions without talking to me and my husband first. She would completely disregard our fears and concerns as parents and claim we didn't know what's best for her grandson by trying to control doctor's appointments and arguing with doctors. Criticizing and telling them how to do their job and bringing medication that her friend's doctor prescribed without even diagnosing my son. She would get mad if we don't comply and do what she tells us. Her latest stunt was showing up at my son's appointment and making a scene, resulting in me and my husband going no contact and changing the clinic by having my son's medical file transferred to another clinic. My mother-in-law was removed from any emergency contact we had before, and we made it clear to the new doctor to not share our son's medical information. My mother-in-law kept trying to find out what clinic or which doctor our son goes to, and she tried to guilt-trip my husband and also get the family to pressure us into letting her know. No one realized the negative effect she had on my son's health and progress, and the family kept calling me awful and resentful because she's just worried for her grandson. Last week, I found out that my mother-in-law was at the clinic and was speaking to my son's pediatrician about my son's condition. My husband told me his mum called and told him that she was talking to the doctor discussing our son's condition. He told me he didn't want to speak to his mum, but she called him to let him know that she has a right to take part in her grandson's care and that we shouldn't try to hide things from her, since she eventually was able to find out. I was livid. I was so angry, I went to talk to the doctor about the conversation she had with my mother-in-law and the fact that she disclosed medical information after being told several times that this would cause us plenty of issues because of my mother-in-law's behavior. Mother-in-law is already trying to get involved, and I just couldn't take it. I reported the doctor and filed a HIPAA complaint. I was told to back off, but I couldn't take this massive lack of professionalism on the doctor's part, and the fact that now I'm having to deal with my mother-in-law's attempts to control the situation. My mother-in-law spread the news about the doctor, and the whole family was stunned, saying my bitterness jeopardized the doctor's career, and that she only shared information with my son's grandmother, not some stranger. Also said that I'm not being focused on my son and choosing to start arguments instead. Basically, made it look like it's all my fault. I'm so tired and I can't take it anymore. My husband agrees that I shouldn't have filed a complaint, like he has no problems now with his mother showing up at the clinic and causing scenes. I disagree with your husband on this part. I feel like you did the right thing for reporting them to HIPAA. That is an absolute violation, and this is what HIPAA was set up for. Screw her for being such a nosy person when she is not entitled. She does not have to be a part of your son's life and health if you as the mother do not want her to. That's stupid backwards thinking, and it's only hurting everyone with her continuing to push. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. HIPAA laws are a big deal, and your situation is exactly the kind that they are there for. Not the a-hole. Bringing medication that her friend's doctor prescribed without even diagnosing my son. OP, I hope you also reported your mother's friend. This is never okay, but I'm just wondering if perhaps OP is not treating her child with medicine and instead going to holistic doctors. I just can't fathom why the mother-in-law would be this crazy about the medical treatments. Then there was mention of court intervention, which I know can be done if there's a lack of medical treatment that is endangering a child. It would affect my views if this were the case, but no one is mentioning it. If that's not the case, then mother-in-law is completely out of line and OP needs a restraining order or something. Either way, it's not okay for anyone to ever violate HIPAA. Yes, I kinda get this vibe too. Either mother-in-law is bat crap crazy, which of course is totally possible, or we are not getting the whole picture. Not the a-hole, that's a huge violation. Honestly, you should go no contact and look into a restraining order. Seriously, I'm done with all this pressure and exhaustion. She knows no boundaries and clearly thinks she's in some sort of a competition here. Restraining orders are a boundary that everyone understands. Posted by user WittyBet9932. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she needs to stop making TikToks as they are so embarrassing? I'm currently deployed, and if you're unaware, TikTok has a ridiculous amount of military users. It's so fudging cringe. I swear, TikTok is like 90% cringy, edgy preteens and teens, military, and creepy old men talking to the preteens. Anyways, my girlfriend makes a lot of TikToks about how much she misses me and about army girlfriend stuff. She'll post stuff like #ArmyGirlfriend. She also has a rather large following, in the tens of thousands, and pretty much everyone in my unit and on base knows about this, and they non-stop give me crap about it. My commanding officer will roast me in front of everyone. I checked the following list, and almost all of her followers were other servicemen, most of whom are probably on our base. All of the comments on her posts are people I know roasting me. So here's some of the TikToks she's made. She's done the classic I'm Coming Home song, which plays over her hugging me when she meets me. There's millions of those on TikTok. She's posted TikToks about how she upgraded when she dated me, putting pictures of me and her ex together. How she went from dating a boy to a man. She made another one about how she went from thinking One Direction was her dream men, but then she met army men. She's made TikToks going off about how much she misses me and sends screenshots of our texts or video calls. I can't remember what else she has done. I know my girlfriend loves me and is doing this out of love, but it's gotta stop. I talked to my girlfriend about it and she got really upset that I would tell her to stop. She says I'm not appreciative of her and I shouldn't tell her what to do. I told her I love her, but I'm getting so much crap for this, and it's really making my life harder for her. She hasn't talked to me in a couple of days after our conversation. I'm a bit worried I may have really pissed her off. I feel like the whole military persona and just associating that completely with your identity is kinda cringe, not gonna lie, and I feel like everyone is making fun of her and him, rightfully so. I feel like this should be an exercise where, hey, we get some self-awareness and we go, let's just step back a bit and stop fetishizing this one particular subject so much and be normal people, because it's not normal to take it to the degree that she is. I think OP telling her to at least just turn it down is acceptable, and please, just post about something else. It doesn't have to be military every time. Gonna go with not the a-hole. Jordak Keebs says, not the a-hole. She cares more about her image as an army girlfriend than she does about her relationship. He should anticipate a TikTok about how her boyfriend doesn't appreciate her. He should anticipate a TikTok about how her next boyfriend is both cuter and higher rank. She is mining your personal private life for content. That is not okay. Tell her that you are uncomfortable having private information shared on TikTok. That is not being controlling. That is having privacy. She can make videos about her own life and interests without using your texts or images of you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. OP should also consider how this will affect his professional career. If she posts something that is or can be considered actionable by OP's command, he is screwed. Saying she only posts things because she loves him is naive. If she is posting screenshots of conversations, what if she posts one of him making a random comment about his commands? Or accidentally posting something that leaks classified info, geotag photo, or like the fitness tracker incident? Think OPSEC and the literal dozen policies the army has for social media. OP's private life needs to stay private. If she cannot control herself, he has a hard choice to make. Edit. After discussion with my husband, I was told to ask, how hot is she? If she's smoking, then apparently there's some form of math involved. Something about hotness versus amount of teasing. I'm not sure about the exact mathematical process, but he's assured me it is absolutely necessary for OP to consider. I didn't think about it, but now I'd be like, yeah, myself, I'd put hotness into the equation for that one if it was me. We talking about someone that looks like Dolly Parton in the 70s? Ooh, there's a lot I could put up with for that. No a-holes here. She's doing what she enjoys and that's okay. You're annoyed and embarrassed because, let's be real, TikTok is super cringy and embarrassing, especially if it's grown women and men doing it, and that's okay to feel that way too. I'm more concerned that your girlfriend is a depender. She's making being a military girlfriend her entire personality, and that's weird and embarrassing in itself. I think you have more issues on your hand than her TikTok hobby. She is doing something she enjoys, but at the expense of her partner. That makes it not okay. I think that makes her the a-hole here. It would be one thing if she was just posting content about herself and her life, but as soon as he says he doesn't like being the focus of her content, she needs to stop. By not stooping and flipping it on him, she is trying to manipulate him and have her way while disregarding his wishes for privacy and autonomy. While I don't think it's appropriate for him to be roasted by his peers, she is making his life harder unnecessarily and against his requests. Being a partner is about making you both happy, not one getting stomped on while the other gets all they want. Posted by user AmiTheA 5567166, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my dad and stepmom in? Title sounds horrible, but hear me out. I, male 32, had a bad relationship with my family. My dad showed an unbelievable amount of favoritism and treated my half-brother differently. I was always told to do things for him, sacrifice my time, future plans, my health, just so he could be happy. In other words, my half-brother has and always will be the golden child. I donated my kidney to my half-brother when my dad and stepmom were freaking out and worrying sick about him for being on dialysis for a short period of time. I was expected to step in and help because family, and I had to do it. My dad decided I was no good for my brother's health and kicked me out of the house so they could focus on my half-brother. I lived with a friend of mine for a while. I worked several jobs, but I didn't get the chance to attend college because I was busy helping my brother. My half-brother moved out of the house and got his own place while he went to college. I'd heard about my family via friends and neighbors who were still in touch with me. I rent alone now, and I'm currently dealing with a number of medical conditions, including anemia. This has been affecting my work, and I'm doing all I can to keep things balanced. Anyways, my dad reached out to me last week wanting to meet me for a talk. I agreed, and I have no idea why. I just wanted to hear what he had to say since he sent people to get me to set up a meeting so we could talk. He told me that he can no longer make his mortgage payments due to his inability to work and spending money on medication for his condition, as well as some debts. He said that his son's fiancée refused to take him and my stepmom in and asked if I was willing to let them stay with me till they figure something out. I was taken aback and I didn't know what to respond. All of a sudden, I remembered why I'm in this situation, struggling both physically and emotionally, working more than I can handle. paying for everything on my own, dealing with stress and anger because of how I was treated by my own family. I told him I couldn't take them. I refused to discuss this any further when he started talking about what my mum would have wanted and how I should have helped like I'm expected to just because their golden child wasn't being supportive. So it's now my problem and I needed to fix it? I haven't spoken to him since. Now he's at it again and wanting me to help out since I already have my own place. Even said that I was trying to get back at him because he had me help my brother when he was sick in the past and claimed that any other brother would have done the same. The thing that really got me was when my dad cried. He rarely ever cried before, and he's the type that acts tough and refuses to ask for help, but he kept talking about the hurt my half-brother caused him, and he clearly didn't expect this treatment from him after everything that he's done for him. Seems like once they kicked you out of the house after the kidney surgery, don't know if you had recovered by that point, but they had stashed all of their eggs in one basket. Turns out that basket had a huge gaping hole in it, and they lost their entire investment, and then that basket punched them in the face. I don't know, this situation's kind of a sucks to suck, but I would not fall for their guilt trips. They kicked you out when you were vulnerable, after you had donated a kidney, and now they come crawling back to you because they got abandoned by their golden child. Sorry, sucks to suck. Life's not fair and I'm not picking the pieces up for you. Continue as you are, OP. I'm sorry that they did that to you. They showed that they don't care about you, and they'll just do it again. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He kicked you out. He is no longer able to ask you to be a bailout card. If anything, your half-brother should be the one stuck with the fathers complaining. They leached enough from you. Yup, and to add insult to injury, they kicked him out after he donated his kidney. Slap away a helping hand, don't be surprised when the helping hand vanishes for good. This is honestly inconceivable to me. What kind of person, parent, whatever, does that? And he still has health problems because of donating that kidney that have seriously affected his life. WTF. Which donation also comes with huge complications and requires lots of recovery and support for life. OP, you owe him nothing at all. Cut contact again, and if he keeps it up, remind him he already took your kidney. He basically coerced you into it. Anyone who says otherwise, remind them they never took you in, nor did they bother to care for you now. Not the a-hole. You already gave up a kidney for a family that treats you poorly. Please don't give them any more. Not to mention, he's trying to emotionally manipulate him, using his mother, crying, saying, "Your brother won't do it, so you have to. And you always have done things for me without me giving back to you, so why would I expect to stop?" Not the a-hole. Posted by user Bread Unlucky. Titled, Am I the a-hole for essentially telling my wife she is powerless? For a bit of backstory, my wife has C-PTSD from childhood trauma, along with ASD and depression, so she currently is applying for disability. Without going into too many details, her dad was a huge POS and had apparently threatened to end her and her siblings many times growing up. She's been admitted into mental hospitals many times. We've been dating for 9 years, and we both moved about 500 miles from our hometown 3 years ago. Now for the a-hole part. She was perusing Reddit and came across a post about a couple that had a huge financial difference between them. I said it seemed like the richer person has a higher power dynamic over their significant other in the story, and we got into a slight argument about whether or not that power dynamic exists in relationships. She then asked me if I thought that way about our relationship. I kind of said, well, technically I do pay all the bills, so in that sense, yes. If I was that kind of person, I'd have the power in this relationship. And she said something like, well, what if I just leave? And this is where I may be an a-hole. I laughed and kind of sarcastically said, oh yeah, with what money? How would you get 500 miles away? And she stuttered a bit before saying she'd ask her mum to send cash for the train tickets. And I said okay, And what if I just hid the mailbox key? And she kind of stuttered before she said, "Are you trying to make me sad?" Tears were flowing down her face and she left the room. I honestly wasn't trying to hurt her, but I think I may have gone too far. If she genuinely wanted to break up, I would help her, and none of what I said was true. I was more speaking hypothetically, and I feel like maybe once she calms down, it won't even matter. She hasn't been speaking to me, and when I asked her if I could help her, she said, "You can't help feeling completely powerless." I honestly feel bad, but I still think that it's not that huge of a thing as she's making it out to be. We've been together 9 years. She should know I would never do that to her. So, am I the a-hole, Reddit? You've been together with her 9 years. You should know what sets her off and what makes her upset, and what isn't acceptable to say in a relationship. I could say a hypothetical, "I'm gonna stab you in your eye." And what are you gonna do if I stab you in your eye? Because I'll just remove the second eye so you don't have anything to do about it. And then I say to you, "Haha, sorry, no, it was just a hypothetical, I would never do that. You know me, I would never stab both of your eyes out." But what would you do in the situation? Of course, that's gonna affect someone negatively. You just don't say it, it's not a nice thing to say. Maybe save these hypotheticals for buddies you're hanging out with. Not with your partner, who you know can be set off by situations like this. You're the a-hole in this situation. Edit. My wife has just texted me from our bedroom that she is feeling extremely anxious and having dark thoughts about living. I apologized to her for my outburst, but she didn't respond to that other than saying she thinks she wants to go to inpatient hospital. I'm not gonna lie and say that I want her to go, but she says she really feels she needs it. She's packed a backpack of clothes, and I'm going to drive her to the ER so she can get evaluated. Won't be active in this sub anymore. Might update after the fact, and I truly feel horrible, but it's not about me right now. You should feel horrible. You did a horrible thing to your partner. Play by Paper says, "You're the a-hole. Jesus Christ, that's terrifying for a woman to hear if she's mentally healthy. Let alone a woman struggling with mental and emotional trauma or grief. I understand we make mistakes, but I definitely apologize very genuinely, and make clear you would never have intentions of doing anything like it. Yeah, this is exactly why I will never be a stay-at-home wife or mother. Not to victim blame her, of course, because there is a disgusting amount of men like OP in the world. She should know I would never do that to her. But you believe you could, right? That means that you do think that you have the power, just that you choose to be kind to her. I mean, you were kind to kids too, but that doesn't make them equal to the parents. You're the a-hole. You guys weren't discussing kindness, you were discussing who holds all the cards, and you made it very clear that it's you. This OP gives me a big, "I would never hit you" energy. The fact that their first response was to run this scenario, instead of reassuring their wife, who they know has issues about this type of thing? OP is such an a-hole. Actually telling her what he would do hypothetically to imprison her against her will is beyond disturbing. What did he hope to gain from this conversation? Posted by user, Am I the a-hole 5509755679. Titled, Am I the a-hole for blocking my brother's fiancée after she announced she was pregnant? I'll explain the situation very quickly, and I'll do my best to not leave out important details. I, female 33, have been married for over 7 years, and have been struggling with mental health issues that prevented me from having a healthy pregnancy. I have miscarried 3 times, and both me and my husband are becoming frustrated, and we have literally lost any hope. This has clearly become a sensitive topic for us, and I can't help but feel absolutely horrible whenever I think about it. My brother Sam and his fiancée have been together for 2 years now. She's a bit rude, and would constantly bring up the fact that I can't have kids by making backhanded comments. For example, she told my mum and dad after I miscarried for the 2nd time that the family won't have grandchildren till she and my brother have kids, and talked about how much pressure I must be feeling since the clock was ticking, because women over 30 have less chances of having healthy pregnancy. She even implied that my husband will eventually leave since he had a right to have his own kids, since I can't give him that. As a result, I've distanced myself from my brother and my family because she was present at their house the whole time behaving like this. I had my third miscarriage this past week, and I'm still dealing with complications both physically and mentally. I got a text from my brother's fiancée the next day, literally after I got out of the hospital, that she was sorry I miscarried and that she was happy to tell me she was pregnant in the same text. I couldn't help but notice the sarcasm in her text, especially when she decided to invite me to my own parents' house to celebrate, completely disregarding what I just experienced. I showed it to my husband, then I blocked her immediately. She found out and she told my whole family. Told them that I blocked her right after I found out she was pregnant, and used the fact that I didn't visit because I was being resentful and jealous. My brother was angry that I blocked her. He told me I was clearly being bitter and disrespectful. My brother keeps parroting her words and won't even see anything wrong with her behavior. It's always been like this, but now it's worse since she's pregnant and everyone is trying to please her. That I ruined this for them, and that I shouldn't hate on my future niece and nephew out of spite. Both my mum and dad weren't happy with what I did. Mum even tried to say my husband made me do this because we're too bitter to be happy for my brother and his fiancée. The extended family heard the news and said they were shocked I did this, saying that I'm always known to be a nice person who doesn't pull this type of nonsense. I didn't feel like what I did was wrong, but now I do. I feel so horrible, but given how she treated me in the past, I figured she did this deliberately. I feel like she did this deliberately to you too. Feel like she's a piece of trash for saying that in the same sentence, and her partner is going along with this blindly because he'd rather be on her side than the side that is being attacked. And you know, that's his prerogative, but he can deal with the fallout from that decision. I really am kind of lost for words on this one because I just want to attack them for being horrible people. Not the a-hole OP. I feel bad for you. I feel really bad for you. Not the a-hole. Show everyone the texts she sent you. She's doing this on purpose and she sounds like a psycho. Exactly, not the a-hole. She was trying to rub it in your face. You don't put the two things in one message, and she could have held off for a few days after to tell OP. You need to show your family the message and read it out how you perceived her tone to be. And maybe show them this thread. What your sister-in-law did was really insensitive. She could have waited a couple of days to announce her news. I'm sorry for your loss. She, honestly, should have waited like 2 weeks to announce after a close family member's miscarriage. Not the a-hole. Did you show them the text? Show exactly why you did it. She used her announcement to make another dig at you. Disgusting. A-holes like that shouldn't be enabled or supported. And OP replies, no, I haven't seen them after this and they didn't give me the chance to explain. Even if I did, they think I did this because of the fact that she was pregnant, but she was being rude and disrespectful to me even after I went through this awful experience. Highlight exactly how she worded it. I'm not going to repeat it just because of how disgusting the gist is. There is actually zero way that it can be other than her trying to rub it in your face. You just left the hospital. She knew. She chose to say what she said at that exact moment for a reason. She's a disgusting person. She does not deserve your family. Your brother is at fault for allowing her to treat the sister that way. Hell, I'd break it off then and there if my partner said that to anyone, let alone family. As a parent, I would be telling your brother she is no longer welcome in my house and he must choose a better partner. Someone who is less spiteful and with taste, or he is out as well. Honestly, OP, along with the recommendation you speak to a therapist, I'm also going to suggest you reconsider your relationship with your family. You need people who are 100% in your court as you deal with this, and these people don't appear to be. Posted by user Won't Buy a Mac, titled, Am I the a-hole for buying my son, 16 male, a PS5, and refusing to buy my stepdaughter, 17 female, a MacBook? So, my wife and I have been married for 2 years, and dated for 3 years before that. Both of our kids live with us, and during this pandemic and lockdown, both of our kids started to do bad in school, and wasting their time on the PS4, and my stepdaughter on Netflix and FaceTime with her friends. I love my stepdaughter like my son, and I try to be close with her without pushing myself, and I know it will take a lot of time, specifically with her age. My wife told me that before we live together, that I'm kinda not allowed to act like her father, because the subject is sensitive. I understood the situation, and if she didn't do anything beyond her limits, like hurting my son, escaping at night, or anything illegal, I'll let her mum act. A month ago, I had a big bonus from work that I put some of the money in our shared bank accounts, and the rest I could do whatever I want. Since I noticed the kids are doing badly in school, and not once saw them reading a book, I thought I can change that by giving them rewards for their achievements. So I talked with both of them at the dinner table and asked them what they would want to have, no matter how expensive it is. My son wanted the PS5, and my stepdaughter wanted a new MacBook since it's more beautiful, pinky and girly for her. I agreed. I told them that if they do well on their exam for the next month and read 6 chapters of a book that I gave them, same book, I will buy them their requested gifts. The rules were clear. You do good, you get the gifts. You do bad, you don't get anything. Honestly, I had low hopes of my son, since I know he hates reading and studying. Anyways, the deadline came, and surprisingly my son got 93% on his exam. He was studying 6 to 7 hours per day, and my daughter got 64%, mainly because I didn't see her study at all. And when I asked them to tell me about the book, my son did great. My stepdaughter read only 12 pages and tried to Google about the book. Not only did she not study nor read the book, she tried to cheat and lie to me. I didn't buy her the Mac, and I bought my son the PS5. My stepdaughter yelled, argued, and even cussed and threw a tantrum. I told her she should deal with the consequences. I gave her another chance until Christmas since she had another exam, and to read the book again. So that night I had a fight with my wife. She thinks that I'm favoring my son, and that I don't care about her daughter, which is not true since both had the same deal. She tried to take money from our joint bank accounts. I refused and told my wife she can buy her whatever she wants with her own money, or she can stop spoiling her so she could do better. It's been 2 days and we are barely talking. She thinks I have to apologize to the both of them and buy my stepdaughter the MacBook. I don't think it's fair since my son had to work hard and she didn't. Am I the a-hole? This one could have gone many ways, honestly, and I'm on the side of the dad here. Doesn't look like obvious favoritism at all. Both were offered a reward to put in more work at school, and only one put in the work. The second one did not put in the work, and now they're complaining they don't get a reward. That's not how life works. It's not favoritism. If the wife wants to fund someone being lazy, go on right ahead, buddy. You can do whatever you want. But OP should not be expected to fund someone that is being lazy and didn't earn their reward. Not the a-hole. Your son worked hard. He deserved it. Not the a-hole. Regardless of your relationship with them, you set your guidelines, your son met them, your stepdaughter didn't. He played the game and won the prize. That's the end of it as far as I'm concerned. So, not the a-hole. Stand your ground on this one, man, or else they'll walk all over you for the rest of their lives. He got an A, she got a D. Those are nowhere near equivalent. Don't buy her the Mac. I repeat, don't buy her the Mac. And if your wife goes behind your back, fudging return it. He even gave her a second chance, and she's wasting it by yelling and throwing tantrums. Her mum is wasting this learning opportunity by doing the same thing, lol. Since his wife doesn't want him to be a father to his stepdaughter, I think it's on her to teach her daughter to be less entitled. And maybe, I don't know, help her study or something? But instead, even she is trying to cheat the system for her daughter. Very much not the a-hole. Good luck with the holidays, OP. Edit. OP, I made a MacBook worthy of your stepdaughter's efforts. God, I love Microsoft Paint. It's on par with the Just No HOA little maps of the area. Isn't it beautiful? MF Doorway says, you would only be the a-hole if you rewarded your stepdaughter for nothing when your son did what he agreed to. That's what parenting is, and that was a great deal for them, which both could have taken advantage of if they put in the work. You are not the a-hole, but your stepdaughter and wife are both acting incredibly entitled. 90% passing sure makes a lot more sense to reward than 64% failing and subsequent cheating. Actions have consequences, and the fact your daughter and wife don't see that, and the accessing of the account especially, is a massive red flag. If she wants to reward her daughter for no reason, that's on her. But she's a fool to do so, and should do it from her own pockets. Not the a-hole. Posted by user FlimsyShop9069. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister I am never babysitting or being childcare for her and her husband again? So my sister asked me if I could babysit Thursday and Friday afternoons after school for her and her husband while they work. I said sure, no problem. I love my niece and nephew, and I love spending time with them. It was also a nice way to get to know her husband's 2 kids better when they had them. It has worked great for the 3 years I've been doing it. Then I started doing an occasional Saturday night for their date nights. For a while, I've had some issues with her husband. There were nights he didn't have his kids from a previous relationship, but he wanted me to babysit as well, and I never felt comfortable with this. When it's his parenting time, absolutely no problem. But I know his ex from a past job, and I do not want to get involved with her level of crazy, which babysitting on her parenting time could potentially bring to my door. My sister and I talked about this before, and she got him to back off for the most part. Because of this, I was happy to continue. So last Saturday, I was supposed to babysit for them to have a kid-free night after months of craziness due to the pandemic. My sister's husband shows up with all the kids, because it was their parenting time, and his ex's younger child and her boyfriend's kids. Nobody said anything to me. I never agreed to have all those kids, and at the door he acted like an ass because I told him I was not babysitting all those kids. I called my sister, and she said she had no idea he would do that. I told her that I am tired of him pushing, and that last night crossed a line for me, and I am not willing to subject myself to the pressure again. Not to mention, it made me feel like an ass having to deal with it while all the kids were standing there, some of whom I had never laid eyes on before. My sister is understandably hurt, but she said she understands. Her husband is telling me I'm an a-hole for dropping out of things on such short notice. Am I? Am I the a-hole? No, you made it clear that you would not babysit if this woman's kids also came along, and guess what? They did that. And then they expected you to babysit when you told them no. In this situation, I will not babysit. Kind of crazy how that doublethink works. It's just like, maybe if we just do it anyway, we'll have a different outcome, because we're not insane at all. It's good that you're sticking to your guns, OP. I really admire that one, and continue to be a badass. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He tried to take advantage of you babysitting by dropping more kids on you unexpectedly. He doesn't deserve you as a babysitter. I'm still so frustrated about that. I would be too. He is incredibly rude for trying that. Rude and overall just being an ass with the whole thing. Not the a-hole. What a lot of nerve dropping his kids off that you don't even know and expecting you to watch them. That's a whole lot of a-hole behavior on his part. It is. I thought he was an a-hole enough for trying to push this on me for several months, but he went even beyond that. He dropped off 4 children that I did not know, had never met before, and thought I would just accept it. Absolutely amazing. I don't understand how anyone, under any circumstances, would think this is okay. Unless an asteroid is heading to Earth and for some reason the only way the children will survive is if they're under your care. But I am reasonably sure that this was not the case. Lol? No. Not even close to what was going on. Pfft, duh. It's crazy. I can hardly believe he thought I would give in at the door. Posted by user GoldGah. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my father he and his family get nothing from me? So I, 19 female, am in college. 4 years ago, my parents divorced after my father decided he was done being responsible and left. He came back after more than a year and married someone else and was helping raise her kids. He brought our mum to court for shared custody. He was granted less than 50% because he was out of our lives for a while. I wanted to stay with my mum, but the judges said he would order an evaluation to be done if we disagreed with his decision. I didn't want to cost my mum more, so I went along with it. But once I turned 18, I was done and I didn't go back. I have nothing to do with my father. He left us and then expected me to be his nanny. His wife tried to be nice to us, but she wasn't part of the equation in my eyes. My father had crap on my mum, left her with 3 kids in debt that he got into, broke her heart, and he abandoned his kids. So I was there for my mum's sake, so she wasn't paying a crap ton for court. I've been helping my mum out ever since I graduated high school. Before really, but more now. I help with groceries and sometimes I go over to cook and stuff so my brother can get his tutoring and help with homework. He has dyslexia and dyscalculia. And so my sister, 14, can get therapy and stuff she needs while my mum works. My father found out I was helping and was annoyed I don't do the same at his house. I told him I owe him nothing and they get nothing from me. He claims I'm punishing his wife and her kids for his mistakes. I don't know why I honestly even gave this any thought, but is it a dick thing that I really don't care to help out his wife or her kids? They are almost strangers to me. We are not family, whereas my mum and my siblings are. Ugh, I don't know. Am I the a-hole? You've laid it out pretty fairly well, but I can definitely see why, you're posting here, because you would feel very guilt-tripped in this situation, and being like, yeah, he was my father for 15 years and then he dipped. Maybe I do owe him something. I don't know, I was doing my mum a favor in court by, going to his house anyway and not having to have her fight or pay more. And whatever bullcrap he's feeding into your ears about, oh my god, you owe it to me, oh my god, how could you do it for them and not me? It's just utter nonsense, it is not relevant to your situation, you told him how it is, and you need to keep your promise to not help him and not have him be a part of your life. I'm surprised you haven't completely cut contact with this man. Not the a-hole, and keep telling him that you're not going to do anything for him. He's trash. Not the a-hole. You're right. You don't owe them anything. Besides, what you do with your time is none of his business. This is also true. It's not. He lost the right to have anything to do with my business when he abandoned us. Once you made the decision, going no contact can be really liberating. Just something to keep in mind. You don't need more crap from him in your life. Sounds like you've got a lot on your plate already. True, I do have a lot on my plate. I hope you're away from him now. Sounds like a toxic dad to me. I'm really sorry for everything that's happening to you. Not the a-hole. Don't let him guilt you. You owe him nothing. Quote, he claims I'm punishing his wife and her kids for his mistakes. End quote. He just needs to step up and take care of his own responsibilities instead of shirking them off on someone else like he did when he left your mother. It's such a leap of logic. They are complete strangers to OP. By his logic, I'm punishing his wife and kids by not helping out. The time you spend on Reddit could be spent washing their dishes, Not the a-hole. I'm guessing he doesn't provide child support? You are being an amazing human. I am sure your mum is proud of you. And OP replies, I'm gonna guess no. My mum would never tell me because she didn't want to badmouth him, but she struggled a lot. She had to take on half of his debt because he racked it up as a marital debt, and she was feeding 3 kids, paying bills, had the cost of divorce, and had to sell our family home and move. None of it was cheap, and she's still paying. He's meant to provide child support, but either he does and it's barely anything, or he gets away with not paying. Posted by user ThrowRA7782. Titled, Am I the a-hole for bringing my boyfriend to my sister's wedding? My parents died when I was in elementary school, and an old family friend took me in. He's always treated me well. My adopted siblings are awesome, and most people assume that we're blood related. My adopted mum has always hated me. She'll act neutral enough around her husband, but she completely tears me down, and she's always been like that. My siblings have always had my back 100% and have stood up to her when they could when we were younger. My adopted dad apologizes for her behavior, but it's been about 20 years, and I pretty much ran out of the house as soon as I finished high school. I still showed up for holidays and major events. A few years later, when I came out as bi to my family, my mum pretty much used this as a chance to disown me and just openly started insulting me and being nasty. My relationship with my siblings hasn't changed much. I video chat and talk to my siblings all the time and visit about once a week since we live in different cities. They don't apologize for their mum's behavior. We just don't talk about her. My sister's wedding was small because of the pandemic, just close friends and family. I was beyond happy that she was still getting some of her wedding and that she was happy. I brought my longtime best friend, now boyfriend, of a few years. Everyone knows him. He's been in my life for the last 10 years, but we only started dating about a year ago. My sister warned me that her mum would be at the wedding, but she had already told her to be on her best behavior and deal with it, or she would be uninvited. Her mum promised to be on good behavior. Fortunately, she held it together for the ceremony, but things went downhill at the reception, where she started a whole scene about me being there and sprinkled in with stuff about my boyfriend. It went from snide comments and insults to a full-blown argument. My dad managed to get her to calm down and she disappeared for a while and came back later to just ignore me. But now the whole story made it to our wider family and acquaintances. Both extended families and pretty much everyone are blaming me for picking a fight with her. I didn't approach her at all. My brother is just generally angry because my sister was upset. Brother-in-law is less angry, but more worried about her. My dad is apologizing for his wife. I'm glad to have been there to see my sister get married, but I feel like I ruined her big day by just being there and also bringing my boyfriend. He's not mad at my siblings and he's been really understanding, if also pissed off at pretty much everyone else. Am I the a-hole for going to my sister's wedding and bringing my boyfriend despite her mum hating me? Edit. The fight was her approaching me to insult me. My otherwise quiet boyfriend defending me. Her insulting him as well. Me arguing back with her, my brother storming over to shut it down, but her starting to yell at him. More yelling from me. Then finally, the groom coming over to get her to relax. Her accusing me of coming because I don't like the groom. I don't. The start of his relationship with my sister was rocky. My brother and I begrudgingly accept him because he makes her happy. Then my sister and my dad coming over to calm everyone down. My sister said she was okay and it wasn't my fault, but she had been crying and hasn't talked to anyone but her husband so far. I don't know, I think this is a not the a-hole situation. I feel like the mum shouldn't have made such a big deal as she did, especially at a wedding where she knows she's intentionally ruining the event for the couple in question. How is that ever acceptable? How is that ever okay to start arguments like that at someone else's wedding? No, no, no. And especially given the context of the situation, even more no, no, no. Not the a-hole OP. Not the a-hole. This has nothing to do with your boyfriend. This would have happened anyway, just for a different reason. This was the general conclusion my siblings and I came up with after I came out. We all think she was just waiting for an excuse to get rid of me entirely since I was still somewhat around after high school. Sometimes just existing as a gay person is enough to cause an argument. It kind of sounds with you like it's just existing as yourself. Maybe it's time to cease all contact with your adopted mother. Not the a-hole. Your mother's poorly concealed homophobia isn't your fault, and you were allowed to bring a guest. Who else did your sister expect you to bring besides your significant other? It sounds like the sister actually knew that OP was bringing her boyfriend in advance because she warned Mum to be on her best behavior, although I suppose that would have been unnecessary anyway, although OP would be not the a-hole in either case. Not the a-hole, your adoptive mum is. She escalated the situation, it sounds like. Don't let people who weren't there tell you how it should have happened. You didn't mention if your sister is upset or not. Have you talked to her about what happened? If your sister is mad at anyone, it's probably your mum, not you. Sorry this happened to you, OP. Not the a-hole. And what kind of wimp is your dad? I didn't think it was relevant, but she never liked my bio mum. He was college friends with both my parents. He used to be my dad's freshman RA, and since he was in the same college again for grad school, they stayed close friends. My mum thought my dad was in love with my bio mum. My bio parents kept in touch with him, but we lived far enough away that we rarely got the chance to visit. I hadn't seen them in about 3 years before my bio parents died. When my dad decided to adopt me, he forced her to agree to take me in. He feels guilty for forcing that on her, but he's always made sure I know that he loves me and he would make the same decision again. I think it's a combo of him being generally non-confrontational and feeling guilty. Update. Thanks everyone. Some people asked about my adoption. My dad pressured my mum into adopting me. He was friends with my birth parents before they died. Adoptive mum thinks that he was in love with my bio mum and had him take a paternity test before adopting me. It came back negative and they adopted me. My sister called me back a week after the wedding. She apologized for our mum causing a scene and asked if boyfriend and I were okay. I apologized for not immediately removing us from the situation when things went down. We both agreed that our mum would have likely still caused a scene. She said she was overwhelmed and emotionally exhausted from the stress of replanning the wedding and the fight. She needed time to process and not be on. Brother-in-law was doting on her for a few days while she took some time for herself. Some people said sister was homophobic because she didn't defend me immediately or contact me right after the wedding. My sister is both the oldest sibling and the peacemaker in the family. She might as well be a saint with everything she puts up with between our mum's moods and our dad's handoff parenting, and her younger brothers occasionally being idiots. She's the first person I came out to, and my biggest supporter and defender. I never realized how much pressure my family puts on her to be the mature maternal figure until brother-in-law called me out. The angry extended family was a mix of homophobia and anger that they weren't important enough to be there. My brother said their mum was telling people that I'm the one who started things because I hate brother-in-law/her/in-laws, etc., and a lot of other more dramatic details that didn't happen. It got bad enough that mother-in-law of all people called her a liar and came to my defense. Then mum decided to throw father-in-law being a serial cheater into the argument, and now both extended families are flip-flopping sides. Normally, our dad would placate our mum, and our sister would try to smooth everything over. She's pretty much hung out to dry on her own. Sister and brother-in-law have gone low contact with her mum. My dad apologized on her behalf to my sister and me. My brother is the only one still talking to her, but only through dad, who he feels bad for. We are all dodging the mess that is the fight between the in-laws. Boyfriend and I also discussed things. He's been incredible, and I'm going completely no contact with adopted mum. Luckily, neither my dad nor my brother will give my mum my phone number, so she can't bother us. We never speak and only see each other roughly once every 2 years, so it's not a loss. I'm not sure how I feel about my dad. I love and appreciate him for adopting me, but we're on shaky ground. That's pretty much it. Ponder Who I Am says, your sister does sound like a saint. It is absolutely stressful being the peacekeeper of the family. It sounds like your dad is punishing himself for something. Cheating, maybe? And that's why he's putting up with your adoptive mum's craziness. But if I were him, I'd be better off being alone than to live with that kind of treatment day in and day out. You did nothing wrong being there and bringing your boyfriend. It's totally your adoptive mum's issue. My sister is basically a saint. This whole thing made my brother and I realize how much she puts up with and how much we take her for granted. None of us can figure out why our parents are still together. It made sense when we were younger, but now we're all adults and he's still with her. But that's not a rabbit hole any of us feel like going down. My grandfather's wife is a lot like your dad's wife, and my grandfather won't leave his wife either. It drives me absolutely insane, but I no longer talk to either of them after the bullcrap she pulled last year. My mom and aunt rationalize it as him not wanting to be alone, which I suppose I can understand, but at the end of the day, he's hurt his relationship with his daughters and grandchildren. I think only one aunt is still talking to him. Your dad definitely sounds like he's punishing himself for something, but he needs to do what's right for himself or risk losing his relationship with you, your brother, and your sister. His wife sounds like the type of person to start making ultimatums, and being browbeaten takes a toll. It might make sense for you and your siblings to have a frank conversation with your dad. If you guys haven't already, of course. And I totally understand how that could just be one more stressful thing, and you might decide it's not worth it, which is totally fair. But just to lay everything out on the table, his wife's abuse towards you, towards your boyfriend, and towards himself, how all three of you are going low contact or no contact with his wife, and how that might impact your relationships with him. Posted by user Surrogate Am I the A-hole? Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I had my husband in the room for my birth rather than the baby's racist parents? So this is my second surrogacy pregnancy. My first surrogacy was great. The pregnancy went well, the parents were nice, and the baby was healthy. Well, this surrogacy has been awful. The parents are immigrants from a country in the Middle East. I am black, and where they are from, people with darker skin are always servants or maids and treated like trash. They were fine before I got pregnant, but since I got pregnant, they have been extremely abusive and rude to my husband and I. The baby is going to have a lot of health problems, which they have all blamed on me. The agency we work with knows how rude they are, but doesn't know how to handle it. Well, I am due in about a month and a half and am on bed rest. They have also only been open to people having a natural birth with no medication. We were fine with that because my son was a natural birth and it wasn't that bad for me. I'm worried about having a natural birth with this baby because of its health, but it isn't my kid, so I don't know. We tried to FaceTime them last night, but they were very rude. They tried to act like my doctor and said that if I just exercised more, maybe the baby would be healthier. Well, anyway, I tried to bring up the possibly getting an epidural, and they freaked out and called me the N-word and a slave and other extremely hurtful things. I am only able to have one person in the room, and honestly, I want my husband. He was great at keeping me calm during both my labors, my son and the other surrogacy. Before, everyone automatically assumed it would be the mother, but the agency said I can choose whoever I want, and I really don't want her freaking me out even more when I'm already stressed about my and the baby's health. So, would I be the a-hole if I had my husband in the room with me rather than the baby's mother? I'm gonna say no. What the hell is this situation? How did the agency let people like this slip through the cracks? But again, money is involved, so I'm not completely surprised. I don't think they can sue you for taking epidurals and taking medication, even if it is against the best wishes of these people. I'm pretty sure your health, and then in turn the baby's health, is of utmost importance here. Again, it's easy for me to say that because I'm not in the situation, and I completely understand that, But if I was the husband in this situation, I would be pushing for that to be an option and get the doctors to slap these surrogate parents in the face for trying to, keep medication away from the wife. That seems like something that is very counterproductive. That's just a terrible thing. On top of the abuse, they are just torturing this poor person. You definitely should just have your husband in that room and then completely cut those trash people off afterwards. Not the a-hole OP. Not the a-hole. Your health is also important. Why did they pick you if they're so racist? Hopefully the agency blacklists them because that is unacceptable. They are abusing you. You control the birth. They specifically chose my husband and I because they thought that a surrogate would be like a type of servant. If you haven't already, please let the agency know everything that they have said to you. I would write it out in a letter so the agency can keep it documented. That's disgusting. I'm so sorry you had to deal with this. The agency needs to do more to protect you. These people are abusing you. They don't care about you. Put yourself first and see if pushing the agency more will do something because this is unacceptable. Not the a-hole. Do what is best for you and this baby. If that means a C-section, epidural, or what the hell ever, and keeping them out of the delivery room, then so be it. That said, I think it's beyond time you had a long, and I mean long, talk with the agency about the potential fallout here. As in, everyone should be prepared for this couple to not take the child due to their medical issues, because them blaming you for issues arising from their provided genetic materials sounds like once reality hits, they may walk. So if you haven't had that talk already, now is the time. Thank you so much. Honestly, I'm scared of that too. Our agency's rules says that if the parents don't want the baby, it is up to the surrogate to decide what to do with it, whether that be adoption or keeping it. My husband and I decided that if that happens, we will keep the baby, but we are hoping it doesn't. You honestly sound like generous souls, and I'm sorry you're getting treated like this in response. Best wishes to you and the birth, and not the a-hole, obviously. Update. Okay, so some major things have happened, and I wanted to make an update post. So only about 5 days after I made the post, I went into labor really early. A little over a month and a half early. So we went to the hospital, and our lawyer and agency representative came as soon as we called, but the parents were very late. I don't want to go into the birth too much because of how scary it was, but I ended up needing my husband in the room. The parents said if they couldn't be in the room, they would go to their home and wait until we called that the baby was born. I ended up doing a natural birth because it was a split-second decision and I didn't want to cause more drama. After a long and painful birth, the baby ended up in the NICU. The baby was very underweight and had a seizure and had some heart problems. The agency representative called them and only the wife arrived. She was very angry when she was told she couldn't just pick up the baby and leave. She had to call her husband, which they were both very upset about. Neither of them wanted to go to the NICU to see the baby, but the representative said they had to before I signed my rights away. When they did, they came back and said they weren't sure if they wanted the baby, and they were going to sleep on it. Our lawyer told us that she would call some of their family to see if they wanted the baby if they decided they didn't. We found out all their family is back in their home country. They called the next morning and said they didn't want the baby because no last names of the people in their family are the R word. We decided to keep the baby. We named her Akira and got to bring her home a few days ago. Many people predicted this would happen. We are waiting to see if they are going to pay the hospital bills because, although they did not keep the baby, it is still their responsibility. If not, we will sue. Thank you for all your kind words. We are settling into life with our newest edition, and so I may not be able to read everything, but I will try my best. Thank you all so much for the kind words. Just to be clear, she is our fourth. My husband's cousin wasn't able to keep her kids for reasons that are irrelevant. We adopted them a few years back. And edit 2, just to be clear, my husband is Indian, not black like me. I actually hope they get blacklisted from every surrogate and adoption agency there is. Their attitude and actions have been horrendous. Yes, definitely make sure the agency you went through is well aware of the whole situation. Forgive me for being confused. When you say surrogacy, the baby is biologically the original parent's, and you're allowed to keep the baby? Well, good for you and Akira. They are fortunate to have you, and good luck to you and your family. In a lot of places, the person who gives birth, even a surrogate, is legally the mother and is considered the bio-mum if I remember correctly. I think I read somewhere that in the UK, bio-parents need to adopt their child to become the official parents. In my country, surrogacy is basically forbidden, and the birth mum is considered the mother. There are loopholes, but only if the child is conceived and born in a country that allows it. For example, the US. Congratulations on the little one. I know this has been a terrible ordeal, but you have a beautiful baby you've brought into this world, who you can do so much good for. She's lucky to have you as her parents rather than them, of that I am absolutely certain. You should be proud that you got through this, and I want to wish you the absolute best of luck, even though the baby already seems to have the best luck in the world by getting to be with you instead. Alright, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, I want to do a huge shout out to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You should be up on the screen now. I love you all, and I think every single one of you are amazing for supporting the channel in the way that you do. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. And again, if you did enjoy today's video, please do tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. All of your hot takes, opinions, whatever you think, really, whatever's going on in your life right now, I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Before I leave, I'd also like to announce that I'm going to start doing meme content again on the second channel. I know it's been a while, so click on the Markee head on the screen without the Australian flag behind him if you want to go see some memes. And as always, guys, have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.